We actually only met a couple of hours ago.
We did. You just saw me wearing a cape running around the corridor and you asked me to stop by and here I am.
That's a guy I want to talk to. We've had like years of Instagram first and everyone's like, you know, they take 100 pictures and pick the one and then they publish that and they wait and they get the feedback. Like now we're moving into more dynamic forms of content, video being one of those. You know, people are stuck with perfection. Yeah. That's also a hurdle.
Don't you think that people are sick of perfection at this point?
So, welcome to the podcast, Toby.
Thank you, Daniel.
Pleasure to meet you. So, thank you for sparing the time. Appreciate it.
It is my pleasure.
The reason I wanted to talk to you is that I think this thing is dead. Mm-hmm. The pen is dead, and I think video is now mightier than the sword. So, I know you have some insights into video, probably on both sides of the camera.
Yes.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on my thesis.
You know, I can tell you that I support your thesis 100%.
Okay.
I think that, so for whatever reason, email seems to be the preferred way of communicating, which is strange to me. I think that, as we've talked about before, you and I, when we just met in the corridor, that it's one of those things that was beneficial at one point, and then we just got accustomed to it. And so we keep going.
So good, almost like.
It's like, I understand it. It's convenient, but the way I'd like to think of communication, about the pen is dead and whatnot, where's the personal touch in writing? Where's the human behind it? Where's the funness of it? You know what I mean?
Well, only great authors are able to project their kind of vision and onto paper, but not many people are great authors. So the average person writes an email. It's lifeless, no personality. It's very functional.
It's very functional. It doesn't open up for usually like follow-up questions or pitching ideas back and forth. It's usually like, I almost see it as one-way communication. Like, here's an email, like, here's the details, here's what I want you to get out of this email. And that's it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we all get caught in those kind of typhoon of like CC all.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You get caught in, you just like hours pass reading everyone's comments and you're like, do I respond? Do I?
And how much do you hear people complaining, I have so many unread emails I need to, attend to or take care of.
Yeah.
So
email sucks as a general.
Well, yes, because I'd like to think of communication. So when I try to communicate, whether it be with friends, whether it be work related, I always try to make it personalized. And I'll give you a little bit of an example. I went to theater school for a couple of years in the US, where I took my majors. My major was acting.
Okay.
And I think that that's one underestimated thing to do, because I think that acting does not only allow you to do, reading a script and understanding the character and whatnot, but it allows you to have confidence in communication overall.
To be the best version of yourself.
Absolutely. And I think it's very underrated, even in a corporate setting, to have some sort of theater training or experience and whatnot.
Absolutely. I see that when you put someone on camera for the first time, which happens a lot in our business, you see them seeing it from the other side and they look at themselves and they just like, oh my God.
Absolutely.
And it takes time to develop that. It's a muscle that needs to be developed.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not something that you go on and they turn on camera and you're instantly comfortable or whatever. Not most of the cases anyways. It's a training process. But once you get the hang of it, and I think once you see the value of it, it's like, okay, this is another way to communicate with my stakeholders or colleagues or whatever.
Yeah.
Then it becomes a little bit less stressful.
Yeah.
In many ways.
And I think that's really what I'm saying here is like, this thing is dead. I think there's too many people kind of holding on to it as a sort of way of communicating, and it translates into text as well. Like obviously we do more typing than we do writing now.
Absolutely, and that's another thing. One thing I picked up on, or something I started doing just last week, Daniel, is that I thought about it. I'm like, okay, so what's the equivalent of an email to a phone? That's a text, right? Mm-hmm. And so even texts are like, you get a text and then if it's a corporate thing or with work, you think, okay, I need to attend to this or whatever. But it's kind of boring. You forget to reply and yada, yada, yada. So what I started doing, I didn't even know my phone had this feature where you hold down the microphone button and then you could send a voice message. Obviously, that's been around for years. I just wasn't aware of it.
Yeah.
And so if I say, what if I text you like, hey, Daniel, don't forget the meeting. I'm excited to see you there. Can you please prepare that? You're going to think, another couple of words, text. But if I say, hey, Daniel, it's Toby here. Listen, can you have this prepared by Thursday? I'm excited for the meeting. Take care, bye.
So much better.
Isn't
And it's
it more
personal.
fun?
It's personal.
It makes it stand out, because a text, you read it, you instantly forget it was there. But if you hear my voice, more fun, right?
So do you think that'll become more commonplace in the future, or are you just a crazy innovator?
I hope so. I mean, I think that more and more companies and people in communication roles are starting to see the value of bringing the personal touch to it, whether it be voice or video or even a photo.
But being a trained actor, it must feel nice to feel the world moving towards you.
Yes. I'm not gonna lie. It feels pretty good. No, but seriously, growing up, I was a really shy person. You wouldn't even believe it. I did not like people looking at me. I did not want to be, the center of attention if I was not in a character. If I was in a character, I felt completely different. Okay. Then I would want the attention, and I would love when people were facing me and whatnot. But I think that's also how you gotta look. Even today, when I do, even if I have like a conference that I'm performing, I still somewhat go into a character. So I guess that's the way to like approach it. If you're a bit nervous, to not think of it as you, but like
it's. We taste the most common way that the average person experiences this is a fancy dress party in English.
Yes.
I think in America it's something else. It's called a costume party or something. But we've all been to them. A few drinks helps, but most people, they really come alive.
Absolutely.
I mean, you never see a sad face at a fancy dress party.
Absolutely not.
Like everyone's in because they get to be someone else for a few hours.
Exactly. So tying back to your original question in terms of my profession as an actor, I mean, that's what, when I started doing, so my first acting job that I had for quite some time was a soap opera in Norway. And so one of the things I was taught there, so I got that after my degree in the US, was to really, obviously I was trained to this, but this was the first time I got to put it in practice, to not be myself, but to go into that character. And, I was nervous because I've never lived in Norway. I was not good in Norwegian. I didn't know anybody. I've never seen the show. So I was brand new, not only in the job, but in the country and how they worked. So, I put on a character even when I was me coming to the studio for the first time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
To act more confident, to act more as if I know what I'm doing here.
But we all do that to some extent.
We do, don't we?
We all put on a kind of a work mode, and we have a home mode, and maybe other types of, whether you do sports or something, you show up in the slightly different costume on.
So why is it so hard to sort of see yourself in a character when you're presenting something in front of a camera or
true. But
an audience?
What tips and advice would you give to people who know they need to be in front of camera more in their business, but just can't do it to themselves? They just can't. They're just not comfortable.
I think it varies from person to person. I think that one of the tips would be I think that what I see a lot when they're doing a video conference or like doing a video of any kind is that they sort of get, which is understandable, very nervous. And so when they start to do something, they would start giggling, or they were like, "Oh, this is terrible," Or
they lock up. The breathing gets shallow.
I think to just like, if you're doing it in front of a camera, just like, it's basically only you and the cameraman there.
Right.
So you got to think of it as a small setting. You're not talking to a bunch of people. You got to think of it as just me and the cameraman having, or like I'm talking.
It sounds like, you need to do reps, just like at the gym. If you try and bench press something too heavy at once, then you're going to hurt yourself. But just getting into it, and like you say, think of it as taking in bite-sized pieces. Yeah. Just film yourself maybe and don't publish it, just to get a practice.
Absolutely. And I think we all feel silly when we're in front of it. And then we look at ourselves and we go like, "Oh, I look terrible," or "I didn't do that right." But I mean, we judge ourselves too harshly in most situations in life, actually. I mean, nobody's going to look at that and say, "Oh, Daniel, that was terrible." But you may think so about yourself for whatever reason. But you're always so hard on yourself. But other people, they don't see it that way.
I think... it kind of dovetails with something I wanted to ask you about. Like I coined this syndrome called Instagram dependency syndrome. And what it's done is it's created a need in people to create perfect content. You know, we've had like years of Instagram first, and everyone's like, you know, they take 100 pictures and pick the one, and then they publish that, and they wait and they get the feedback. Like, and now we're moving into more dynamic forms of content, video being one of those. You know, people are stuck with perfection. Yeah, that's also a hurdle.
Don't you think that people are sick of perfection at this point? I know. I mean, I'll be the first to admit it. When people post a photo or a video of themselves Monday morning, you know, hair's all messed up, and like just an outworn T-shirt, that makes me feel like, oh wow. I mean, you know, I can see myself in that picture, or I can understand where they're coming from. Whereas if I see someone, you know, perfect hair and flowers and whatever, it's like, it's a bit too much at this point, because we've gotten so used to those picture perfect moments that we know it's not true.
It's a moment in time almost. Like, it's almost a cliche to see that perfection.
Absolutely.
I laugh to myself when I see a BMW advert now. You know, they're still doing those drive of your life, and you know, you're sort of going through a chicane in Monaco. It's like, buy our car and this will be you. It's
I know.
Really?
I know, definitely. And I think that, again, that ties into the whole the penny stead, you know, video and those ways to communicate is the way to go about it, because it doesn't need to be perfect. What it needs, it's that human touch, that personal touch. That's what it's about. It's not about making a Oscar, you know, worthy movie. It's about just ditching just text, and they get to see your face.
And look at us today. I mean, we are living in moment. I mean, we're creating a piece of content. Yeah. I met you a couple of hours ago in the corridor. You were wearing an interesting outfit, and we started a conversation. You just jumped on, and we're creating. It's not perfect.
It's not perfect.
We didn't plan anything.
And you know, I'll give the background story as to why I was running around in a cape just here now. It's because that we have some job openings that we're looking for people. And we realized that, okay, so these applicants that are looking for a new position, they see text and more text and more text. I mean, every job application looks the same in some shape, way, or form. I
totally agree.
This is what we do. This is what we're looking for. Here's what's in it for you. And they all use the same wording, don't they? We want motivated people. We are a fun company to work with. So what we did is that we said, hey, let's ditch writing about the position. Let's make like a 90-second video to showcase the position.
Brilliant.
This is what the person in this role will do on a day-to-day basis.
Brilliant.
Isn't that more fun?
Yeah. I mean, and it's going to help people to make that decision. Do they click? So. Do they message in their profile? It's a much better way to do it.
And nevertheless, they're going to remember it. So they're going to be like, oh, wait, but that company did something extraordinary. Yeah. And it, in my opinion, it goes above just what their job is all about. It showcases that this company is a creative company. They're doing fun things. They're trying out new ways to communicate. So it speaks volume, not just about the role, but about the company itself.
Yeah. And the costume, you look great in it, by the way. But
I don't know about that. That's okay.
The costume is just a talking point. You know, it's something to stand out, and it's so simple. I will tell you a quick anecdotal story, because when I saw you, and I was like, "Oh, that takes me back a few years." But before I moved to Sweden, I won a horse in a raffle dressed as Zorro.
You won a horse?
I won a horse in a raffle dressed as Zorro.
Okay.
And it was just this incredible weekend. I met up with some friends at a polo event in Windsor, and we thought we'd go dressed as equestrian themed. And I got the Zorro outfit.
Okay.
And we bought this raffle ticket when we arrived, and my number came up, and I'd been in the PIMS tent all afternoon, and had to do a speech, and received a horse. And I won a polo horse, 10,000 euro polo horse.
My immediate follow-up question is, what happened to the horse? What did you bring it home?
So I was like, okay, there's some infrastructure I need for this. This could end up being a net loss.
Yes.
But actually, I ended up selling the horse that evening at the event. I mean, I'm not an equestrian person.
Right. So you won a horse, you sold a horse in the
same
day.
evening. Yeah. I got money for the horse from a polo fan. Yes. And so I owned a horse for about 4 hours from a polo. But I also had a cape on, and
It's something about capes, right?
I know.
They make you like, oh, look, that guy's wearing a cape.
I know. Let's bring the cape back.
For those Seinfeld fans among you, there's an episode where they talk about capes and whatnot.
And capes used to be for bad guys, I think, back in the day. Yeah. I feel like the Highwayman and
it makes me. Like, but when I'm wearing a cape, it makes me feel like I have authority.
I agree. And if you can get the wind like blowing it too.
Well, can I just say something regarding that video also that we did with the cape and whatnot? Because I think it's important to touch upon this too, which is that for me, when I begun at my position, we worked nothing with videos. And so what I do on my day-to-day job, which is not acting, I train staff on products and services and whatnot. And my immediate thought was, I need to bring my acting skills into my day-to-day job, hence the videos. Mm-hmm. However, it's also, I think, beneficial for you in a position, because what happens if I showcase a video that will then get spread to other companies, other stakeholders within the company, me as an employee is also going to make a stand out to people that I haven't met in the office. I mean, when you saw me in the corridor, you said, hey, I've seen you on videos, on training videos. Yeah. And that has happened many times that I get international calls like, hey, I saw you in that low production video you did your home with a phone. Can you fly to London and help us do a video about this? So it's not only about getting the message across, you're actually promoting yourself as an employee. You make yourself valuable because people see you more than they would do, oh, Tobias sent an email or something. You know what I mean?
I think what you're saying there is that video scales you. Like
absolutely.
It's beyond the, it builds trust. Like it's like you've met the person in a way.
And it ties into your personal brand. And I think that's really important in this day and age that with social media and whatnot and all these, like LinkedIn, for example, everybody has their own personal brand in a way that you want to promote. And I think videos within a company is extremely effective to do that.
Yeah. Awesome, Toby. This has been great. Like, I love spontaneous meetups.
Me too.
And I'm so glad you could join and talk to me. I think we kind of agree that the pen is dead.
It is good for one thing, and that is writing Christmas cards.
And autographs, because you might become famous, even more famous, if I might say. You might get that hit movie or something.
I'll give you an autograph on your hand.
We don't have any papers.
So no, I'll write it on your hand.
Okay, and I'll tattoo over it.
Okay, great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll be doing more podcasts like this soon, so keep an eye out and we'll let you know. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.